King Heiðrek was dead. How could it be that a man renowned for his wisdom was foolish enough to swing a sword at Odin himself? The king's own slaves had murdered him, compelled to do so by Odin's dark decree, and of course, by the cursed sword, Tyrfing. The slaves had fled with all of the king's prized possessions, and they hid in the wilderness, unaware of the terrible power which they had stolen. An assembly was gathered to decide who should now rule the realm, and the king's son, Angantýr, spoke up. "I am Angantýr, son of Heiðrek. I am the king's only true-born son, his only heir. I shall rule as your new king, but I swear a solemn oath that I will not sit upon my father's throne until I have proven myself worthy by finding his killers and avenging his murder." The assembled men approved of Angantýr's claim and wished him good fortune and bloody victory over his father's murderers. There were, however, whispers that perhaps they had been too hasty to hand the whole kingdom and all of King Heiðrek's inheritance to young Angantýr. Did the king not have another son some years ago, with a princess no less? They say that the fair Prince Hlőð was born in the holy woods of Hunland with a harsh-edged weapon, a ring-adorned helmet, a long coat of mail, and a well-broken horse. What shall we do if that noble son comes to stake a claim on the wealth and power that we have just handed to Angantýr? But these thoughts were soon forgotten, as Angantýr soon proved himself a noble, courageous man, worthy of his father's legacy, for he went alone into the wild and dangerous reaches of the land, and won retribution on his father's killers. He recovered many of the stolen treasures, including the legendary sword Tyrfing, which he claimed for himself. He knew of the sword's sinister reputation, so swore that he would only use it if he had no other option. He returned home in triumph and held a magnificent funeral for his father at Arnheimr on the banks of the Dnieper. Though news of the old king's death spread to neighbouring lands, eventually reaching the ears of Hlőð, the other son of Heiðrek. Hlőð had been raised by his mother's father, King Humli, and he was a valiant and handsome prince who had inherited the best qualities of both his royal parents. He resolved to seek out his share of his father's inheritance, as he was a royal son of King Heiðrek just as much as his half-brother Angantýr. So he journeyed out of the east to Arnheimr with a grand, glorious retinue of followers, announcing, "I shall meet with my half-brother, and we shall divide and share out our inheritance fairly and equally." King Angantýr received word that a great host of men, led by his half-brother Hlőð, was approaching his hall, so he rode out to meet them, decked in his finest, most magnificent coat of mail, a splendid shield, and of course, the enchanted sword of his father, the terrible Tyrfing. He met with his half-brother, announcing, "Welcome, Hlőð. You have heard of our father's death, no doubt. Come to my hall, and we shall share mead and drink to his memory." Hlőð answered, "You honour me, brother, but we are not just here to fill our bellies. I have also come to claim my inheritance from our father. I only ask for my fair share, brother. Half the king's riches, half his slaves and lands, half his cattle and half his men, half of Mirkwood Forest and the fair stone by the Dnieper River." King Angantýr was not pleased by the request that half his possessions should be gifted to a brother he barely knew. He responded, "Brother, bright shields and cold spears must clash before I give you half our father's property. Would you next demand I split Tyrfing in 2 pieces? I shall gift you land, wealth, cattle, thousands of horses and slaves, a throne of silver and rings of gold. But this shall amount to 1/3 of our father's property, not half." Hlwiąð and his followers considered this offer of only a third a great insult, though perhaps they could have begun some negotiation. This was not to be the case, however, as old Gizur, the ancient foster father of King Heiðrek, stirred up strife, shouting out, "My king, you offer this son of a slave too much. You may share a father, but you are not equals. His mother was not married to your father, which makes him the king's natural son. Illegitimate. He's nothing but a filthy..." "Don't call me that," snapped Hlwiąð. He was outraged by the insults and furiously departed his brother's kingdom, returning to his grandfather, King Hlwiąð. King Hlwiąð listened to his grandson, upset by the cruel treatment and harsh words that Hlwiąð had received. He then announced, "Let us wait patiently through the winter, but come spring, we shall gather the greatest army our kingdom has ever mustered, every man of fighting age above the age of 12. We shall claim your birthrights." And so, that spring, near the forest of Mirkwood, which divided the two kingdoms, Hervor, sister of King Angantýr and commander of the border fortress, looked to the south, where she saw the sun was completely shrouded from sight by a cataclysmic cloud of dust. She stared into the haze and said, "I spy glittering mail, gilded helmets and golden shields. Hlwiąð and Hlwiąð's host approaches. War begins." She ordered that a horn be blown, as she and her warriors prepared themselves for battle. Hervor and her men fought valiantly and violently. But great valour does not always triumph over greater numbers. Hlwiąð won a great victory here, and his army began to burn and ravage the land, while survivors fled in terror to King Angantýr with news of their defeats and the fall of his brave sister. Angantýr knew he must raise the whole strength of his kingdom immediately and meet his brother on the field of battle, lest he become a king of nothing but ashes, ruins, and corpses. He began summoning warriors, whilst old Gizur, foster father of Heiðrek, rode to the enemy with this message: "Your leaders are doomed, for Odin is wrathful. Meet Angantýr in battle on the Dunhæð under the Yasa mountains." And then he threw a spear over Hlwiąð's warriors, ominously declaring, "I dedicate your souls to Odin, shadowed-faced shield shaker, hell-blind hanged god, screamer and spellcaster, confuser and killer." And so it began. Shields were shattered, spears struck true, brutal barbed arrows mangled coats of mail, and men tore each other to pieces, no doubt pleasing Odin, that battle-merry warfather. Angantýr watched the battle unfold before him, witnessing thousands of loyal men fall to the savage strikes of the enemy. Defeat looked close, unless he did something about it. He knew what must be done, though it pained him greatly. But the decision was not truly his to make. The outcome of this battle was decided long ago by the Norns at the foot of Yggdrasil, carving the fates of men at Earth's well. The cursed sword Tyrfing was ready to fulfill the doom it desired, the outcome of a curse spoken so long ago upon freshly forged steel under an ancient sun, all over a quarrel that no one could quite remember. These brothers were little more than puppets whose strings were pulled by men long since dead and buried. Angantýr drew the blade from its scabbard, and it shone the bright, unnatural light. A light as terrible as the first dawn and final dusk. A cold light as dreadful and powerful as bitter moonlight on frozen seas. He charged forward with the cursed sword, ready to gorge it on human blood and guts, ready to win victory in this desperate war. Angantýr wasn't quite sure what's happened, but men told him he sent countless souls to Odin in Valhall. The rivers were choked with the blood and entrails of Hlöð's men, and the field was littered with corpses and the flesh of men and horses. Angantýr had won thanks to the horrifying power of Tyrfing. When the sword was satiated, Angantýr searched the ruin of Hlöð's host and found the body of his brother. He looked handsome and glorious in death, but had clearly died at the hand of Angantýr himself, forced to kill his own brother by the evil power of the sword. He was now a kinslayer, the killer of his last living relative. He wept over the body of the brother he had barely known, lamenting the ruin the sword had brought upon their family. He cried out, "Brother, I offered you so much, but war has rewarded you with nothing. We too are cursed, brother, for I have become your killer. This evil deed will never be forgotten. The judgments of the Norns are cruel and evil." And so, the cursed sword Tyrfing had finally fulfilled its dark destiny. It had killed King Swavalami so long ago. It caused the deaths of noble Hjalmar the Great-Hearted, King Heiðrek and his beloved brother. And now it had destroyed the young, valiant and noble Hlöð, son of Heiðrek, son of Hervor, daughter of Angantýr. After this, the sword vanished from the histories of the northern lands. Perhaps its power faded with its final evil deed, or maybe Angantýr wisely destroyed it, finally ridding the world of its evil. The memory of the sword would endure for all time though, as would the legacies of the men and the women who brandished and fell victim to its terrible power.